All right, we are back here for the next two rounds of my Underdog Best Ball draft. So, wanted to take you through these, kind of talk to you about some of the players that got drafted in rounds 3 through 4, and then we'll get rounds 5 and 6, and then I think 7 and 8 are actually almost done already. So, we'll get these videos pumping out here, get the whole series completed within probably the next week. This draft's actually going a lot faster than I thought it would. So, let's go ahead and start with the first pick in the third round, and that was Debo Samuel. Now, this is the same guy who went Jamar Chase, Brees Hall with his first two picks. I think he was hoping that he would be able to go wide receiver here, but unfortunately, I just don't think the talent fell to him. Obviously, he couldn't take T. Higgins, but I felt like he thought he needed a second wide receiver and went Debo. In my personal opinion, there, I would take Jacobs over Debo. We'll get further down here. DK, I think I'm taking DK over Debo. So I'm not super high on Debo. I just think San Francisco has too many playmakers. Now, in this format where he could potentially go off any given week, I understand he has maybe a little bit more value than he will in just a traditional redraft where he's going to be probably a little shaky at some parts this year. But for me, like I said, there's at least one other wide receiver I'd take before him. I know some people like Calvin Ridley more than him. That's a little bit risky for me. But I mean, I'd definitely take DK, and I definitely would have taken Josh Jacobs and just stacked my running back room. But that's just me for that part of it. 3.2, we take Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if you're going to go quarterback early, might as well go, either Mahomes or Allen or Hurts. So we obviously see those three guys come off the board. Don't love it, don't hate it. I mean, I don't think any of these guys are stacking them with, any of their elite players. Okay, it looks like we got a Dallas Goddard, Jalen Hurts stack here. Let's see, Josh Allen, and yeah, they have no Buffalo wide receivers. So going early, don't hate it, don't love it. If that's your strategy, that's your strategy. T. Higgins, we see go to 3.5. Love T. Higgins going that far down. Obviously, like I said, I think this guy probably takes him if he would have taken Jefferson instead of Jamar Chase with the first overall pick, but or at least I would have. But Calvin Ridley, again, super high. I mean, 31st overall pick in a best ball draft. You are really banking on him coming back and being competing to be a wide receiver one. I don't really know if you could just bake that in right now. So I think that Jacksonville has a lot of good weapons. They have Evan Ingram, they have Zay Jones, they have the guy that broke out last year, the big contract guy. I can't remember his name. We'll see it here in just a second, but there's a couple of guys there that make me a little bit hesitant on Calvin Ridley. Mark Andrews at the 3.8, absolutely love it. And I was actually looking here and I was comparing the Mark Andrews first 3 rounds versus the Travis Kelsey first 3 rounds. And with Mark Andrews, you see here, you got Austin Eckler, Jalen Waddle, and then Mark Andrews, who I think can compete to be the tight end one this year, as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy all season, versus the guy who went Kelsey first, ended up with Devontae Smith and T. Higgins. Now, you can argue which one you like more there. Is Kelsey worth that much more than, Andrews? Again, going into this season, I don't necessarily think so. I think, would rather have the three that include Mark Andrews, Austin Eckler, and Jalen Waddle. So just a little bit of strategy there when you're taking a look at drafting an early tight end. Lamar Jackson, again, I think when you have that many quarterbacks go off the board, the last elite level one is most likely going to follow pretty quickly. So Lamar went ahead and got off the board. And then I was checking the draft here right as this guy was about to pick, and I was just praying DK Metcalf would fall to me. That would have been an absolute pipe dream, but he got taken at the 310. I don't see JSN coming in there and really disrupting too much of DK Metcalf's workload. I think that he's going to be the clear number one there. And then obviously we'll have some competition for who gets the number two targets. Obviously, I think personally it's going to be Tyler Lockett still until JSN takes him over, and that probably won't be until later on in the year. So I think Metcalf, he could go at the 2-3 turn. Like I said, I would have taken him over Debo if I was really wanting a wide receiver there. And then we get my pick, my third pick in this draft. I went Jameer Gibbs. Now, I'm a little bit shaky on this pick, but it was between Jameer Gibbs, Travis Etienne, and Najee Harris. I think Etienne is in for a little bit of a slighter workload. Seems like they don't want him carrying all the time. And I really do not like Najee Harris as a running back anymore. I think that he is completely reliant on his heavy workload that he has. We'll hope to see that offensive line improve. Maybe that helps some of those bad habits that he's been developing. But, we didn't see the PPR ceiling that we saw from his rookie year with Ben Roethlisberger last year. So I'm still just a little bit out on Najee Harris. I don't mind him where he's going here. That's respectable. But I would much rather take the new guy, Jameer Gibbs. Again, I go back to the Lions draft room. They were pumped to get him. Almost all rookie running backs actually outperformed their ADP in their rookie season. So snagged up Jameer Gibbs, was pretty happy with that. I needed to grab a running back here. At this point, I had Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, so I needed to start my running back depth pretty soon. Amari Cooper, Travis Etienne, go to this guy. I don't necessarily hate that. That gives him Travis Etienne, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper at the time. Again, don't hate it. I don't mind Travis Etienne. I think he's still going to be the main guy down there, but they did draft another running back. And again, it didn't seem like they necessarily wanted him to be a full time workhorse. We saw JaMychal Hasty get some work down there last season, and then obviously James Robinson did as well before he got hurt. With my fourth round pick, I picked a wide receiver that I'm still very high on this year. This will probably be the last season that I'm going to be this high on him, but that's Keenan Allen. When he played last year, he was phenomenal. Obviously, had the stretches of injuries that kind of tanked his season if for those who had him on the IR or had him riding the bench for the entire year. But I still think that he is the possession wide receiver down there. If you've seen the highlights of Quentin Johnson, I mean, he looks like a new version of Mike Williams. So I think Keenan Allen's role in the offense is pretty secured. And I think Quentin Johnson and Mike Williams are kind of going to be eating a little bit more from each other. So I love Keenan Allen. I think he still has a chance to be a top 12 wide receiver. Now, it's going to take probably one final big year. It's going to have to be a good Herbert year, probably some good touchdown progression going his way. But, I could see it happening. I think Keenan Allen, out of any of the guys in Los Angeles, would be the guy that I want for the Chargers. And then we have Jerry Jeudy goes right after that. I don't hate that. He's going well above where Cortland Sutton is, so he seems to be the guy that a lot of fantasy people love in Denver right now. I completely understand that. I feel like Sutton kind of fell off a cliff last year. We'll see if he can really pan out on that level of draft stock. I'm a little bit nervous. We'll see what the Denver offense looks like. Again, Najee Harris, I don't necessarily hate him this far in the draft, but he's still just kind of one of those iffy picks for me. I think I still would have went ETN over Najee like this guy did, but I think Najee getting slotted right here is right where he should be getting drafted right now. Now we're going into the little less mobile, but really good pocket quarterbacks in Burrow and Herbert. Don't mind this at all, getting him in the middle of the fourth round. Again, it's best ball. We already have at least four other quarterbacks taken off the board, so these guys are going to go pretty quick. Interesting to see Herbert, go before Burrow. I typically, when I'm looking at these two in drafts right now, if whichever one of those two falls to me is kind of the one that I want to take, in this kind of stretch right here. So this guy getting Burrow at the 4.8, I love that. Let's see, did he stack him with anybody? Yeah, and he stacked him with T. Higgins also, which is even better. Because that was my one gripe with the guy taking Jamar Chase once. What Jamar Chase number one is, you're not going to be able to stack him, and that could be one of the best stacks in fantasy football this season. D-Hop, Christian Watson, I don't have too much to say about either of these guys right now. Obviously, D-Hop will have to see where he lands, so this is pretty risky. Obviously, at the time, he was not looking too good at the wide receiver position, just having Cooper Kupp. So that's there. Christian Watson, I was very high on Christian Watson last year. Once he started breaking out, I had literally paid up in fab for him in every single league or picked him up the week prior. So I hope he can repeat it again. My only concern is, Green Bay right now has a lot of positive Jordan Love news coming out. That usually means that there's something they're trying to hide in all of their statements. So I'm a little bit concerned for all the Green Bay options right now, but we'll see how that pans out once we get into more offseason activity. Mike Williams at the 4.9. I don't hate it, especially in best ball. I mean, he's going to be extremely boom or bust, but, like I said, I would expect Quentin Johnson to possibly take over some of his share. And he may be someone, we'll see what happens with injuries. I don't see him being a long-time Charger from here on out. I could see him potentially getting moved this offseason if he's not already a free agent. So I could just see him maybe having a little less favorability in the offense for the entire season. TJ Hawkinson going in the fourth round. I believe he would have been the third tight end taken. Yeah, so we see here TJ Hawkinson coming off of a pretty good year last year, getting taken at the end of the fourth. The way this guy's building his team, he had Jefferson, he had Pollard and Jacobs. I don't necessarily hate it. The only problem is, do you really feel that confident with TJ Hawkinson being your star studded guy like a Kelsey or an Andrews? I don't think so at all. I think you're going to have to invest in another one or two tight ends to feel comfortable at that position. So that's why I'm probably avoiding Hawkinson at this point in drafts. But if he falls a little bit further, I can understand snagging him. Christian Kirk, here's the Jacksonville wide receiver I could not remember earlier. So let's see. He is going a full 31 to 47. So 16, almost 1.5 full rounds after Christian or Calvin Ridley right now. I would much rather have Christian Kirk in this spot. And then this guy, Terry McLaurin. I mean, I was contemplating Terry McLaurin over Keenan Allen in my 4.2 spot. So the fact he was able to get all the way down to the 412, I absolutely love this pick for James. I mean, he got Chase, Debo, and then McLaurin. I think I wouldn't doubt it if McLaurin finishes over Debo, this season. I think McLaurin's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL and doesn't really get the respect. Now, he does have a little bit of a quarterback issue potentially with Sam Howell. We'll have to see how that plays out, but I do think he could be pretty good still. He's been good every year of his career. I don't know why we would expect him to fall off at all this year. So those are picks rounds 3 and 4. Again, I'll have rounds 5 and 6 up pretty soon because they are already concluded. So I'll just have to get the video made. But make sure to like, comment, subscribe, any of the good stuff to keep the content rolling. Appreciate you guys. Peace out.